Hi, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband Jim, and we are trying something just a little bit new because, frankly, I'm tired of sitting behind a desk that has all of my stuff piled on it. Because while we're doing the podcast, I'm constantly like losing my attention and looking at what's piled up on my desk.
I kind of like it.
That's because we hide. But we are trying something a little different. We'll see how this works out. So, let's talk about artificial intelligence. This is what we do at least once a week, where I allow him to have 30 minutes of my undivided attention.
Allow.
I allow it.
Allow.
I am granting you
Apparently.
30 minutes of my undivided attention. So, we always cover the news. And I must say that there is a person that his name is Chris Kraft, and he has a great LinkedIn, and he posts once a week about like what's going on at the federal level, what's going on at the state level, what's going on at a like global level. And he really does a good job of posting news headlines.
Yes, you sent, I'm looking at it here. I've got my MacBook. I'm looking at it here. And you sent them to me to look at, and I don't really want to go into all of them. I think the point that I wanted to make with all this, or maybe he's making with all this, is there's a lot of it, and it's not just happening in the United States. So this is AI Weekend Review 9/20/2025.
That's just a few days ago.
So let's look at President Trump signs tech prosperity deal with the UK.
Okay.
The US and the UK signed a landmark deal to deepen cooperation on AI.
Okay.
FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, looks into AI chatbot companions. There's been a lot of stories out about young, lonely children, a couple of suicides, that kind of stuff. So they're looking into that.
Okay.
Air Force experiments with AI. Agencies dive into AI for cyber defense. CDC saves 40,000 hours. I like this one. Mark Kelly presents AI for America roadmap, where he's talking about the things that we should do for the roadmap.
Okay.
And then he goes down to state and local. Seattle launches a new AI plan. New Jersey, Ohio, Colorado is cracking down on some AI stuff. International, we got Africa. The point is that this is just 1 week.
1 week.
And this is country after Albania appoints an AI made minister.
That I saw in the news.
I think they misspelled minister.
They actually
misspelled minister.
Yeah, I see that. They actually appointed to a cabinet position an AI.
Yeah, and why did they do it? Because
corruption.
Corruption is so bad they don't trust themselves. Japan, domestic AI model. I mean, this is just everywhere, and they've got their own version of Stargate, which of course is the massive data centers they want to build.
That's in the UK.
That is in the UK. Well, we have one here we're talking about doing as well. They're talking about building one like the size of Manhattan or something. It's massive.
Italy.
Italy passes a comprehensive AI law. I thought the Zuckerberg AI glasses demo falling flat was kind of amusing.
The demo didn't go as well as planned.
It didn't go well at all, but that's demo world. I'm sure somebody got yelled at, but you know what? That's demo. If you're demoing something new. So there is just headline after headline after headline after headline.
It's like drinking out of a fire hydrant.
Well, that's certainly part of it. But my other point that I thought this made was I'm really getting tired of the AI bubble. My dad used to say, if you make a prediction, you make it broad enough and give it a long enough runway, it's always going to come true eventually.
Right.
And so if you keep saying AI bubble, AI bubble, AI bubble, AI bubble,
eventually
you're probably going to be right.
Yeah.
The question is not whether or not it's going to contract, because it always does. The question is, will people still be making money? Will you still be making? What people are acting like is it's going to vanish overnight. It's just going to go away.
That's
and
what I'm hoping.
We have that same problem at the school district. We have all these headlines, and we're still fighting with people about whether or not AI is even real, what they should do with it, whether or not they should use it. It's not your call, people.
No.
It's not. I mean, you can be, and I'm not going to say you're a Luddite. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with wanting some checks and balances in place, but this idea that the only way to learn is the old way, and the old way is
go back to the old way.
Well, I know, blue books.
I made a comment on LinkedIn the other day that I think I'm going to buy stock in whatever manufacturer does blue books, because the blue book sales have gone up a lot.
I know. I remember blue books.
Everyone say hi to
using them.
Sadie. Sadie's going to be
Sadie.
she had Sadie. She was fine.
Anyway,
She's feeling good. Sadie
she has been
feeling
feeling bad. Dang. So as a K-12 district, part of what our job is, other than to make sure they pass those high stakes tests that we now have 3 of instead of 1.
Not yet.
Oh,
But
no,
that's
we're
what they
going
voted
to.
on.
It's going to
That's
be
what they voted
it's
on.
going to be almost so much better to have 3 short ones and 1 long one. But anyway, the point is that it's not really our call.
No.
I mean, we don't get to decide where the world decides to go, and we don't get to arbitrarily dictate that the only way to learn is the old way. If you're not writing to articulate your thoughts, you're not learning, that kind of stuff.
I was on a panel discussion this morning, hosted by a company called Trinka, and they have a product that we were talking about, but basically we were talking about plagiarism and AI checkers and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main things that they do that I think is interesting is they try to get the ownership back to the student. But we did have a lot of conversations about going back to writing and going back to the old way. And the process is what needs to be graded now, not the end product.
One more news thing before we get to them.
All right.
Because I do think I want to talk more about this idea of
The process.
the process and the friction points, that kind of stuff. So Anthropic released the Anthropic Economic Index report. And the headline was Uneven Geographic and Enterprise AI Adoption. And the thing that makes this interesting is this isn't Anthropic going out and doing a survey of everybody. This is Anthropic seeing who's using Claude. And Claude is, I mean, I've been using Gemini a lot lately for coding, but Claude is absolutely still probably the top coding
I've
tool.
been using Claude a lot lately.
You have been. I can't even get, that's one of the reasons I had to start using Gemini. You're using up all my Claude time. But Gemini's been doing a good job. My point is that when you look at that, the title, I actually thought it would be fun to ask Claude what Claude thought. What do you think of your economic report thing?
And?
Well, the question I asked it was, it looks by the title like you're talking about an equity problem. I mean, think about the title.
Yeah.
Uneven
Don't say the E
geographic.
word.
Well, when I'm talking about equity in this case, I'm actually talking about the one thing we always talk about, the divide, the divide between the haves and have-nots, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I said this title implies a lack of equity to me. Well, I'm in rural America, so we're very aware of resource
Lack
issues.
of resources, yeah.
If we don't want to call it the equity divide, let's call it the resource divide. What does the title? I said, what do you think of the title? And I'd like you to talk about, the fact that it's rural. Well, it said the 2 key points in the report are that rural and lower income areas are being left behind in the AI revolution. How many times have we said that? A lot.
A lot.
The report correlates with income across countries, not just the United States. Singapore and Canada are the highest countries in terms of usage per capita.
Singapore and Canada?
Yes. Among the highest, 4.6x and 2.9x. It's part of it with Singapore's the population. In contrast to emerging economies, including Indonesia, India, Nigeria, they use Claude less, and they're seeing a pattern of inequity, stating that the productivity gains are larger for high adoption economies. Current usage patterns suggest the benefits of AI may concentrate in already rich regions. Well, there's a big surprise.
That's a big surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's called sarcasm.
And the gap isn't just about access, it's about AI getting used. High adoption countries show less automation, more augmented use. When we talk about
Opportunity
efficiency versus opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you talk about the automation thing, that one's kind of interesting. I have my own take on that one.
Okay.
Because I decided, the agentic thing is the big discussion with everybody. And I see these people going, you know what? I decided to give Claude $1,200 or OpenAI $1,200 and let it invest for me. I don't know about you, but I don't have an extra 1,200 laying around I can throw out for an experiment.
What was the result of their experiment?
Well, the one that did the investing, they came out ahead. I don't think they came out a lot ahead, but they did come out ahead. They made money, I think.
Maybe I'll go drive a bus for a while.
Well,
Make $100.
so I decided that I was going to try the agentic coding thing.
Okay.
And I have a project I've been working on, which we know is Agnes. And I'm always revising, rewriting, and messing with it. I'm having a release problem because I keep going.
You won't say I'm done.
I won't say I'm done. But I decided to do a rewrite. I spent 7 million tokens, which luckily the tokens were cheap. It was about $3. I spent 7 million tokens allowing it to do a rewrite. And at the end of 7 million tokens and 6 hours of my time, it went, you know what? I don't think this is going to work the way you wanted. And I went,
But
thanks.
It didn't give you back the token.
It did not give me back the tokens. Here's a refund. So when you start talking about these automation things and agentic, the idea of agentic automation is that I give it a task and it can go out and get tools. It can make decisions on its own. And the classic example everybody likes to use is booking travel because it's so complicated. But coding is a good example as well. And it's one of the most common uses for Claude. So what was interesting is that this study actually says the gap isn't just about access. It's about where you are. No big surprise there.
Absolutely.
And in rural, and the conclusion was this means that when even in rural or low income areas that do get access, they're using it in less sophisticated ways.
We saw that 100%.
That may provide fewer economic benefits. We went to a conference recently. We were speaking at a conference.
Yes.
Small school district. We had a little table that we set up where people could come ask us questions about Agnes, and then we had a 30-minute talk about it.
Right.
We had somebody sitting at our table who told us, and I quote, we don't deal with that AI stuff. We block the entire internet, and then we whitelist what they ask for. Now, I tried that little experiment by accident.
Okay, I thought that you were going to
explode.
The fact that you didn't say anything, I was very proud of you.
It took some self-control.
The look on your face was like, you got
I was looking around, that old show, The Candid Camera?
Yeah.
I was looking around going,
okay, somebody.
Is there a camera recording? Because I thought maybe you would set this up to see what my reaction was.
So let's put that in perspective.
I tried that experiment, by the way, by accident.
Exactly. And that's that perspective. I mean, you had purchased a content filter, probably 10 years ago?
Probably.
And they sent it, you got it set up, and then you realized that the default for this product was to basically blacklist
everything. And then you had to whitelist. Well, I remember we had a lot of problems, but I remember the one specific one. It was a media class, and they wanted access to the Oprah website, Oprah.com or whatever it was. So I went, okay, no problem. So I unblocked Oprah.com. When you looked, there was literally nothing on the page except Oprah, because Oprah page was links to other pages. You can't just whitelist a domain because every domain, that's why they call them hyperlinks.
Yeah, you have to go.
That's kind of an old-fashioned idea. Hyperlink. They're linked together.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they're doing that. Well, my guess is they're buying blue books and writing stuff down on paper because there's no possible way the internet's going to be useful if I have to whitelist it. Yeah. So anyway, it was difficult. And,
I want to go and like run through the town that the school's in saying, take your kids elsewhere, take your kids elsewhere.
Well, I don't think I hope that decision wasn't unilateral on the department. I hope the tech director didn't make that unilateral decision. I mean, because there's a lot of scare tactics going on right now where, I use them myself for training purposes because the cybersecurity thing has become a problem. School district we know about recently, Uvalde ISD, of all school districts, for these people to hit with ransomware, you picked Uvalde. Does your mother know what you're doing when you do stuff? That is ridiculous. Of all that school district's been doing enough. But anyway, so you can certainly make people paranoid, but the point of it is to make them safer, not block. It's like saying I'm going to make a computer more secure by turning it off, because that's pretty much what you do with the internet. Anyway, so this report is interesting, but it led also to a discussion you and I had about, we have it a lot because we don't have any other hobbies. And we need to get hobbies, but we had a discussion about friction points in learning.
So that is something that we were talking about this morning. I think that a lot of people, now the call that I was on, it was myself, I was the K-12 perspective, and then there were 2 university professors. And so a lot of it had to do with higher education. But we all agree that higher education, it starts at K-12. You know, the students who go to college have to go through the K-12 system first. One of the things that we unilaterally agreed on is that it's the process of learning is where the learning actually occurs. Getting from the point A to point B. You tell a kid, and we were talking about this earlier, you tell a kid, okay, I'm going to start here and I need you to get to this product. I need you to produce something to show me that you have learned. It is, I need to pet Sadie.
Yes.
It's what happens in the messy middle is where learning actually happens.
Well, and when you think about it, one of the discussion everybody is having that I hear, because I got a trouble ticket in today about it, the question is what they have decided, and they've got their blinders on, is the only way to measure learning
is writing.
Is writing. Now, for 2,500 years, that's been, or however long, that's been probably the case. And I'm not saying it's not still a good tool, but I would argue that you need to back up and abstract that a little bit and say, we're trying to measure learning. What are the options? So what was the game we played?
What was the game we played?
We started playing a game. Basically, it says, what if you lived in a world that, and the idea was, can we have a discussion where we back up from the measuring process and talk about the learning process and then the measuring process and how the two can integrate in a world where you have a tool that can answer a question like in similar to what a human was. And so we talked about that study. There was a study done. It wasn't really that great of a study.
Very deep study.
But still, I thought it was I thought it was reasonable though, because they were measuring again, they limited themselves to writing as the measuring point. And they said,
here, write this paper with paper and pen.
Here you get that you're going to write this paper and we're going to measure the people who use AI, their neural activity, the people who use Google search, and the people who don't get either. And what they found is the neural activity was stronger in the ones that had the least, that didn't use any, then Google, then AI. Well, of course it is.
Because it's friction.
It's about friction points.
Right.
Learning, as you said a second ago, is a messy process, but it's the mess that matters.
Right.
The question is, can we make the messy friction, can we add friction back into the learning in a world with AI? And
yes, you can.
Well, I can't definitively say how, but I can say we better figure it out.
Well,
that's what all those headlines were. That was the point of all those headlines.
I'm going to bring the guy that we talk about occasionally, Mike Kentz. He was on our podcast 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was a high school teacher, and he had started having the kids turn in the chat. And the reason that he did that, and a lot of people do that now, is because it's almost like you have to say, all right, you're going to turn in the chat, and part of that chat has to be you having a discussion, you having an argument, you questioning the AI. It's almost like you're going to give them a rubric of how to make sure the information that they're getting is good information, correct information, all of that good stuff. So you definitely have to add. She's okay.
We lost
Sadie. You definitely have to add the friction points back into the assignment. Should have been happening when Google came out. There are a lot of essays that kids have gotten around. I'm sorry, I'm going to throw some of our kids under the bus. Our 3 kids, the 2 oldest ones specifically, utilized Google a lot when it came to getting information. Now, did they rewrite that information? Did they copy and paste it and look over it again? Sure, they did. And did they have their constraints? And that's something else we talked about today, is that K-12 education has always drawn the box for kids. That they've drawn the box, and the kids have to stay within it. Right, the kids have to stay within the box. When they go from K-12 education and they move up to college, the box is getting bigger. Okay? Within that box, we have to make sure that they have the friction points necessary to learn. You made a comment to me earlier today that your dad used to tell you. All right, so there might be a little weird splice in there because we lost Sadie Girl,
Sadie Girl's not feeling good.
and Sadie Girl had
She
to go
had a
outside.
rough night.
So-
Sadie Girl had to go outside because she had a really rough
yeah,
night.
So Sadie is not in the room anymore.
So
We were talking about friction
but-
and what your dad had said about if you get from point A to point B, and it's easy.
Well, Bob used to tell me that if I do something that I already know how to do, I've learned nothing. But maybe incrementally I learn a little bit. But if you do something that you don't know how to do, you obviously learned a lot because you didn't know how to do it. The problem you have about these boxes you were talking about is when you draw a box, most of what you're drawing it for is not learning, it's measurement.
Right.
You're trying to be able to get a consistent data points as to what the kids can do. That's why they use writing so much as the measurement tool, because by doing so, they have a defined output that they know how to measure. The problem is that when something can write like a human does,
And it's getting
you
better
have
and better.
you have a
at it.
choice. You say, okay, I'm going to make sure you never get to touch that, or I'm going to find a new way to make sure you learn. Let me give you an example. I do it. Now, I'm not saying this works for everybody, and I'm not saying it works for every course subject, but I have a pretty severe ADHD problem. I have a very severe focus problem that's probably getting worse as I get older. So when I'm creating code, I wrote code on my own, working for companies for 20 something years as a programmer. Now I let the AI write a good chunk of the code because what I used to write in is C++ and what I use a lot now is Python and like 2 or 3 other things, JavaScript, all that stuff. I don't want to get a PhD in JavaScript and Python, but the coding process is the same for me. So I work with the AI to architect what I want to create, and it gives me a plan. And then I evaluate the plan several times. I think about it. Then I take the plan and I put it in Notebook LM and create a podcast from it. And I listen to the plan because I know they said recently that there's no such thing as auditory versus other. I learn faster listening and talking than I do than reading because of the focus problem. I'm increasing the friction on purpose. I mean, if you think about it, I just added multiple steps to this.
I would say that sounds kind of complicated.
It is, but I learn better. And when I'm done, when I'm listening to it, many times I find I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think that's what I wanted to do. And so I go back and adjust the plan. And then when I get the plan done, then I break it out into phases and I take each phase and I put it in the exact same way. Thank God Google gives me Notebook LM for free because I use a lot of notebooks, but I'm adding friction points on purpose. So if you're using AI and you're using it only to take out friction, you're being lazy. I'm sorry, you're being lazy.
Yeah. And
because you're being lazy, you're not learning. But you know what? Cheating is cheating. You were being lazy a long time ago too.
Yeah.
And you weren't learning when you were copying off your neighbor's paper.
Right.
You weren't learning. I mean, when I first got to the school district 20 years ago, there was a lady there whose kid would come into our office in the afternoon, and they showed me one of their reports they did. And I had not been in education. I wasn't a K-12 teacher. I looked at the report and I'm like, that's actually not very good. Of course, you're not supposed to say that. I found out later. But all that she had done was gone to the web search engine, taken a bunch of pictures, copied them, pasted them into PowerPoint, and then put a one-line description underneath it and wanted to turn it in as a project. You think she really learned much from that?
No, she
This
didn't.
was a long time before large language models.
Thank you, AI.
I think I have the more discussions about what it means to be human and learn than I ever thought I was going to have because of AI.
I agree. And on that note, we're going to close the podcast.
Yeah. Unless you've got another way of. Do you learn things with AI the way I do? I mean, do you add that friction back in? I mean, you don't remove all the friction points either when you try to learn, do you?
Argue with it.
Isn't that an additional friction point?
I go back and forth, and I'm like, no, that's not what I want. Yes.
Wow,
no,
you
yes,
argue?
no.
That's shocking, actually.
My name is Maurie. My husband's
I
Jim.
thought you always argued with me.
Might not be my husband's
I'm a little jealous. I didn't realize you were arguing with the AI. We'd have to talk about that.
This is AI in action, and we hope that you guys have a marvelous rest of the week.